Abuja becomes the heartbeat of creativity, a gathering where art, culture, and innovation tell the story of Nigeria to the world. The 18th International Arts and Crafts Expo, INAC 2025. The journey began with a night of elegance, the pre-INAC dinner. Diplomats, government officials, and cultural figures gathered to celebrate the creativity that defines Nigeria. Each evening that followed carried its own variety night, a stage where every state and country could showcase the spirit of its people. The following morning, attention shifted from celebration to conversations. The Investments Roundtable, hosted by the National Council for Art and Culture in partnership with the Center for the Study of the Economies of Africa, explored a bold idea that Nigeria's soft power can drive real economic growth and win the future for Nigeria.
I think last week someone was talking about the fact that what has changed in Nigeria. That's about 20 years ago, when you go to international events and you talked about Nigeria, it's about maybe bad stuff so that the population people just know about Nigeria. But when you go to foreign forums these days and you talk about Nigeria, the first thing you ask you is, do you know Davido? Do you know Burna Boy? And that's actually the power of actually what creative industry has done for us. The purpose of this conversation is, how can Nigeria really put our footprint into that big bracket around creative economy? So at CC, we really champion ourselves as a space for conversation around development idea. And this morning, it's another opportunity for us to have that conversation.
First of all, just want to thank CSEA. We're building a collaboration with them to really look at measuring economic data for the sector. One of the things we see is that people look at the sector in its size and think it's about entertainment, but we're about business. This is about enterprise, and it's also the sector that can deliver the most jobs for Nigerians and the most opportunities. So this conversation is the beginning of a relationship. I'm happy to see everybody who's here. I'd like to thank the President of Ratal for coming through and everybody who's on panels as well. Thank you very much, and let's get going.
Now, this roundtable is actually a call to action, and it's an invitation to you, our partners in the private sector, to see what we see, a golden asset class waiting to be unlocked. It is a promise to our creatives that this government is committed to building the infrastructure, both physical and policy-oriented, that will allow their talents to flourish and yield immense dividend.
Over 3 sessions, leading thinkers, creatives, and policymakers explored how technology, media, and culture intersect with the economy. From monetizing creative industries through technology and the platform economy, panelists were clear on the way forward.
I think the easiest way to kind of visualize it is, if you look at the demography that watch content on devices, they are largely not in this room in the first instance. And if you ask me why, I can say because there's hardly anybody here that has OT account or money point account. You may know people that have it, your dependents might have it, your domestic workers might have it, your artisans might have it, but you don't. But What that simply means is that it is that demography that the fintechs are working with. And that's the demography that's actually watching content primarily on the devices. And because they watch content on the devices, that demography is very sensitive to data cost. So you find that telco is very instrumental to how far we can move forward. Because if we don't focus on data and keep focusing on subscription, that demography will never, and I say never in capital letter, pay for subscription and data at the same time. So the earlier we start looking at how to use data and bundle data and content and be able to get closer to that demography and be able to generate a revenue that is localized within our ecosystem, that will be our saving grace.
And one of the first things that is very critical is the issue of IP. If creators do not have their IP clearly defined, then it becomes harder for them to kind of monetize out of it. But when that is defined, and then you have a lot of the platforms being mostly, one of the other things to note is that most of the platforms are really international. And what we've seen over time is that depending on the monetization capability of the geography, you can have rewards skewed in the favor of the platform. So the ability for you to get rewards is very critical. So the other thing I want to touch on is the digital IP exchange. The ability for IP to be defined, assigned, and then exchanged for monetary value. You will realize that there's a lot of opportunities for us to export our creativity beyond the way it has happened today.
When it comes to sovereignty and data protection, you know that the European Union is somehow regarded as a standard because of the General Data Protection Regulation. And this is a very sensitive area again, that at the beginning raised really huge reactions, but now it's been accepted as probably the best standard for data protection. And we work with the Data Protection Commission here in Nigeria very effectively. In fact, by now, Nigeria is regarded as the reference in Africa. Okay, so we just recently had the visitors from Tanzania and other African countries who are looking at Nigeria in terms of what's been achieved. And of course, you know, sustaining what's been achieved with the protection in Nigeria is not an easy task, I must say. So in terms of identity, protecting identity, okay, you know, we are 27 states, 27 countries, many different languages, and of course we can go on and on about how we protect identity in European Union. We protect local identity, we protect languages, we protect minorities, and this is really something which is at the heart of the European Union, and very always happy to work with Nigeria, that we regard as a natural brother or sister in this game, because you face many challenges which talk to our genetic, let's say, heritage. Okay, local content is important. Local content is the outcome that we have to aim at. But that, of course, that's not just by way of straight prohibition that you achieve local content. Local content is an outcome, it's not a precondition, you understand? And this is also something where at European Union we have achieved a lot. You know, in our economy there is a lot of embedded local content, and this is what I think also Nigeria has all the, cards in order to achieve a lot of local content, especially in this sector. Thank you.
In terms of innovative financing, I think part of it is about partnerships, identifying the right partners to actually develop those instruments for innovative financing. When I did work previously with IFC, what we looked at were what were the barriers to finance, and definitely one critical issue was the perception of risk around the industry. So one key intervention that government and its partners need to look at are how do you de-risk these investments. The other aspect of it is actually understanding the business model. How do these businesses actually work? How are they structured? And I think it also goes back to a discussion about IP. How do you value IP? WIPO is trying to do a lot of work in terms of looking at IP financing. I think that's a very interesting place to go to unlock the finance that is needed by the creative industries. Another area is right-sizing the financing. It's not about, how many businesses in the culture and creative industry sector in the creative economy need $1 million financing? It may be as small as 10,000, right? And also the financing, is it going to be in Naira? And I think Chike's point is really important about the fact that the telcos are generating all of this revenue in local currency. It's also about accessing financing in local currency. And can you find the right partners who are doing financing, who are willing to do local currency financing? So in summary, I think government needs to look at these interventions and one, find the right size financing in terms of the envelope, the size of the transaction. Two, it's about de-risking. And then three, it's about really understanding the business model and understanding the industry. Many of the businesses are actually, one or two people. So it's about unlocking finance for that size of business.
The presidency actually sees creativity as a strong economic asset. This is why in 2023, the Federal Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism, well, at the time, Arts, Culture, and the Creative Economy was created, which is now the Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and the Creative Economy. This was done because there has been culture and creativity are assets. Nigeria has, as you said, 49 subsectors of the creative industry, so 9 subsectors. Each of them can contribute immensely to economic diversification. Take, for example, video games. Nigeria has a population of over 200 million, and 70% of that are under the age of 30, and most of them play video games. The video game industry is over 300 billion globally, and Nigeria has the potential to tap that, generate as much as over 50 billion yearly. We also recognize that we have assets in our artworks that have yet to be digitized. These are areas whereby we know that we can also have the economic diversification. The NCMM recently digitized over 200 artworks, which can then be put on blockchain to generate income for the nation. Also, infrastructure, policy formulation, and funding. Those areas are where we really need to concentrate on. As you know, just recently they launched the National Theatre, which is the Wole Soyinka Center, which is a beautiful edifice, and it shows when we give the right funds to our infrastructure, what we can achieve. Also, policy formulation. The ministry has been working on the, let's say, IP securitization policy and IP, that basically to protect our intellectual property. We want to give creatives the potential to securitize their intellectual property, go to banks and use their IP to actually get funds and money. IP is where actually the money is. It's no longer data. It's no longer oil. It's IP. Microsoft's biggest acquisition was intellectual property of video games. Over $70 billion they spent just on video games. The Saudi Arabia Investment Authority recently made a purchase of $50 billion, which was also on video games. I think that's Electronic Arts. It's a game publishing company. These people are investing a lot of money in the creative and digital ecosystems. And the presidency has seen that this is why the ministry needed to be created. Also, funding is very important. The ministry has set up the Creative Economic Development Fund, which is seeking to directly fund creatives of over $200 million meant for the creatives. We finished the second batch. The first batch happened in the beginning of the year, and the second batch 2 just finished recently. We want to give the creatives these funds, and it's not just also about funds. We've realized that people need acceleration and incubation. It's not just to give them, but also give them all the necessary tools that they can need so that they can actually create something that will lead to more economic diversification. Thank you.
I think my question is regarding the MVNO. I love the ambition with the MVNO and what you are looking to do. But from my own understanding of MVNOs typically ride on existing MNOs. And that would mean that you are kind of like reselling already existing service. Do you think the MNOs will want you to thrive, considering that you have very big players who are coming in your own space, like your former friends, or should I say they are your friends, MTN. They are also coming in heavily within that space. I don't think, no one has, from the best of my knowledge, no one has as much infrastructure in that space as much as they do, because you would typically be riding on their own infrastructure.
Because they are actually far ahead of us in that technology, and we needed to borrow a leaf from them and then bring it there. As I'm talking to you, this is our SIM card in South Africa. So it's already out. But to bring this into Nigeria, we need to rework quite a number of things. And that's why, for me, when I arrived, the first thing I was hoping for is that at the moment we have one of the best God-given minister we can ever have in this creative space. What we just need to do is to arm her with the right ammunition, and she'll be able to deliver because she's already delivering. For me, what is critical for us now is public-private partnership. The private sector needs to come to the board, you understand, because I think we have a good government to work with. Now, when it goes back to the MVNO, as you rightly said, the way it was set up in South Africa is different from the way it was set up in Nigeria. By design, the MVNO doesn't compete with the MNO, unless you don't know what you're doing. If you know what you're doing, you should be competing with the MNO. Because by design, 50% of your revenue goes to the MNO anyway. So there's really nothing there to compete. You're supposed to go to markets where they can assess and create a value proposition that they don't currently have. And that's where the creative economy comes into play.
The roundtable wasn't just dialogue, it was a statement that Nigeria's creative economy is not a promise. It is already happening.
Well, it's already happening. That's the whole point. All we're doing is amplifying what is happening already. So in a situation where this year PwC puts the sector at $25 billion, we're not talking about potential. I stopped talking about potential 10 years ago. I'm talking about the business that is happening today and how to expand it. And I think that's the important thing for people to understand. That's the first thing. The second thing is that how you action it is by funding it. Right? You've got to fund the sector, you've got to enable the creators, you've got to enable the ecosystem. We lack infrastructure, we lack facilities, and therefore we lack marketplaces. So you need marketplaces to monetize, you need infrastructure to produce, and to make it easy for you to produce. So we are trying to build a hub network, not physically build, because there are buildings everywhere, but we'll put hubs in as many places as possible. Our real target with ICE hubs is one in every local government in Nigeria, because just like the commissioner said, or somebody said, there is value in every single local government in this country. This country is blessed with the value and richness that many people are not even aware of, and they walk past it every day. It's like you're walking on the street, you go to work every day, you walk right past this thing, you don't even look at it. But it can buy everything you ever thought about in your life. But if you're not aware, you cannot extract the value from it. And that's kind of how Nigeria has been. But we're now just beginning to recognize our intrinsic value, the value of our own self, our own culture, our own sites, our own monuments. And once you begin to do that and monetize that, you don't need to talk about anything else.
The president is very keen on the creative economy. He's seen it as a national asset for economic diversification. And he's mandated that policies be created through the Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism and the Creative Economy that will not just create an enabling environment for the creative, but will also protect their interests. This is why the minister is keen on intellectual property and IP securitization and monetization, which will basically give creatives the ability to turn their artworks and IP into assets, whereby they can take it to the banks and actually get loans, basically just securitable assets. And also in terms of the IP, it's very important that the intellectual property of the creatives are protected. We don't want the IPs to be taken offshore. We want our assets to be owned by us, managed by us, and sold by us.
To be honest, competition is not usually the right thing to focus on. Originality is actually the right thing to focus on. When you're original, you have your own market. As a musician, as a creative person, we should maintain our originality and target the market that admires our originality. And then we don't want to play the algorithm game. You fail. It's a very difficult game to play. But again, we need to also look at other value chains or other aspects of the value chain that we are currently not paying attention to.
Thus, the need to rebase the culture and creative industries in Nigeria for investment opportunities.
That we found when I spoke about the creator economy, what we're trying to capture with the report that we did was, yes, there is a creative industry, but then there's a rise of creators. And when you're talking about creators across digital space, I believe like one of the things we captured was the fact that the creators are the ones that are giving life and activity to the digital space. But it doesn't mean anything if there's no financial exchange. It doesn't contribute to the economy if there's no financial exchange. So we still see that it's a nascent space. From the research that we did, we found out that only about 10% of creators are making a full $1,000, from the creative platforms. Now, what's happening is that if you are not monetizing, really, you are not actually creating any economic value, right? So what we are now seeing is that there is a need for that mixture of policy and infrastructural vehicles for us to be able to monetize, which is why I was very excited with the conversation that was being had on the other panel when we're talking about monetizing this creativity, because we have so many creators, and unfortunately also, and maybe the economists might correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things that we find out is that because a lot of the revenue that is coming into the space is not being held in local markets and local banks, we are finding out that a lot of these creators are not, you can't capture it as our own GDP, because it's actually sitting in a US bank account, and you have most of our creators now creating content for that market, and going to those markets to be able to capture value from their creativity. For us that we're trying to map out and document the creator economy, what we are seeing is that there is need for more enabling environments and infrastructure to be able to unlock the value, which is one of the reasons why we are excited about the ICE platform that the ministry spoke about, where they are doing hubs across every local government in Nigeria so that creators can be able to walk in for a minimal fee and have access to infrastructure to be able to create quality content that can stand well. But that's not enough, because what we found is that, yes, that might help us create more, but that does not help us monetize more. So, which is why there's need for more innovation across locally owned platforms to help monetize this creativity and hopefully protect the creative assets, which is the IP that we were speaking about earlier. Because the moment that IP can be valued, and the moment that creativity can be monetized, now you can now say we are going closer to achieving the 100 billion contribution to the Nigerian GDP.
Europe and USA, and those are markets in which African musicians are very, very popular. As well as that, you have the fact that streaming services, as I say, for every £10 or £12.50, I forget how much it is now that Spotify and the others charge, they will receive that money, and they have never paid out 100% of big content. They have never paid out 100% of subscription. I think that, as far as I remember, it's probably about 85%, maybe even less, of subscription income is paid out to creators. Now, some of it's going to be because some people have died, or they leave publishing companies and there's a transition period. But a lot of it, a very significant part of it, is because they don't know who to pay.
Yes, the digitization of the cultural assets has happened. We now have a digital museum. It was one of the things that we highlighted in the very beginning. You can go to museums.ng and everyone can access it's not 200, it's over 2,000 actually assets now being captured, and they continue to capture more and put more in the inventory and the digital inventory. And what we needed to do was make the museum culture, the heritage, more accessible. So it's not just storytelling in our animation or in our books or in our movies. It's also connecting the true cultural assets or artifacts that these stories revolve around, or connect people to these stories, and making them more accessible to a newer generation. And museums.ng is like a perfect way to do that, because now my son can access that and he can read more stuff around it's the bronzes, the Ife arts, the Igbo arts, and things like that. We've also recently started in collaboration with Multi International Assets Register. We just recently concluded the complete documentation of the NCAC collection in Abuja and Lagos, and the NCMM collection in 6 different states. There is, so just so you understand, there is over 360,000 cultural assets just in antiquities and artifacts alone. This is pre-World War. And then there's a little over, only of these collection is NCAC's collection is 1,000 plus, and then you're looking at the National Gallery of Arts who have 13,000 plus. So it's a massive number. And what we need is to establish a sequence, a process, a system, that structure that allows us to continue doing this in an iterative manner, and that's what we've done.
From policy to partnerships, panelists explored how collaborations across nations can amplify creativity and investment. Across borders and sectors, one message was clear. Creativity is a shared language, and this is why it is Nigeria's secret sauce.
I believe that when I first came to the NCAC, my first objective was that NCAC has to become a storytelling organization. Because if you're working in this sector and you're not telling stories, you may not really be working. You know, stories are the key to everything, and stories are told in many different ways. Obviously, when most people think about stories, they think about books, novels, poetry. But obviously you have film, you have music, you have visual art, design. All of these things are storytelling. You have fabric. When you look at Akwete, Ashebi, Ashoke, the designs in these fabrics are all part of storytelling. So until you recognize the value in yourself, it's hard for other people to see value in you. And I think one of the key problems we've had as Nigerians is undervaluing ourselves, diminishing our own cultural assets and our own heritage. And that is why storytelling is so important. And just to give a small data point on this, in 2024, we just published the Nigeria Creator Economy Report. I hope Elijah's going to fix the link.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We just published this report, and one of the things we've been able to see in terms of data in Nigeria, just giving an culinary arts, fashion, comedy, it's all storytelling, right? If you look to Spotify, 30 billion streams in 2024, 58 billion naira paid out to Nigerian creators. Now, as Honey said on the earlier panel, if we had better regulation, that money could be 4 times that money. Depending on what you're doing right now, we are doing a Nigerian music industry report that will follow this one. We have arrived about $800 million for 2024. But I have other data that shows the actual size of the sector could be as big as $9 billion. What that means is that we're only capturing 10% of the value we are creating. So I think it's not just about storytelling, it's also about value capture, right? And in 2025, going forward, storytelling is largely about technology and platforms. So it's really about where are you telling the story, which platforms are you using, and how are you reaching your audience. And I think that's a good way to sort of kick it off.
I think we are at our most authentic when we are creative. That is the original Nigerian. Many times the debate comes up as to what is our national identity. Go into our stories, go into our characters. Why do some characters resonate with us more than others? Why does Osofia or there's certain characters that just stay in our mind and it doesn't go away because it struck a chord in us. Whether you're Igbo, Yoruba, Ijo, and Ibibio, these characters, they portray that essence of what it means to be Nigerian. So at NTA, we recognize the responsibility we have to project what we believe is the national identity. And through the stories that we craft, through the stories that we project on our screen, we want to one day be able to say, this is who we are as Nigerian. This is the Nigerian dream. Because believe it or not, there is something like the Nigerian dream. There is something like the Nigerian spirit. They never say die. Naija no dey carry last. These are something that we all identify with, that in each of us, there is a strand of that DNA. And it's in stories that you can see that being reflected and being manifested. So it's a huge responsibility.
Principally, I feel like brands haven't really captured the opportunity around culture, and particularly around the Nigerian perspective. As Terry mentioned, there are so many values that we push out there into the world that are very underappreciated by not only us, the people that are actually like the representative of this value, but also by a lot of companies that generate a lot of revenue off us, right? So classically, Nigeria they carry last, right? Nigeria they carry last is not just something that sounds nice. It is the embodiment of the resilience that is in the Nigerian people, right? That in itself is a powerful export. That in itself is a value that every brand should want to associate with. Every brand should genuinely want people to be resilient. Because the more resilient people are not only the more productive people, they're actually usually a lot more loyal, right? Because they've got staying power, they've got stickability, right? If you mess up as a brand, which often you might, they're still going to be there with you, right? Because they understand the struggles. Now, that in itself is a story that can be communicated effectively through brand communications. Now, as you mentioned, we spent a lot of my career telling these stories for brands. But what I always get frustrated by is that the fact that they don't really want to embrace it as deeply as they ought to, right? And I don't really know if it's because they're afraid that if they embrace it too much, Nigerians will disappoint them. But can we all agree that we never disappoint? Why? Yeah. Because Nigeria really carry laughs, yes. Right? So that has always been something that has frustrated me sometimes. But what I'm loving is when I hear brands like the NTA who are saying, no. We're going to go back and remind people why we are a great nation. We're going to go back to some of these stories. Because the truth of the matter is this. I don't think I want to see another reboot of Cinderella, whether she's black, white, or Chinese. Can we please have another story? Can we have another narrative? And hopefully it's one that comes from us.
You have to understand that if you look at Latin America, Brazil, there's 102 million black people in Brazil. 1 in 2 of them are Nigerian descent. So they are not some random people, they are Nigerian. Trinidad, St. Lucia, Barbados, Jamaica, these are Nigerians, okay? 60 to 70% of all the Africans that left this continent during slavery are Nigerians. So everybody worldwide that is black, 60 to 70% of them are Nigerian. So we don't even have to look for a marketplace. So if you understand that African Americans in America have set all the trends in music, fashion, entertainment, and storytelling for the last 50 years. What has now happened in the last 10 and 15 years is they've begun to take ownership, which is why you have billionaires showing up. If they were allowed to have ownership 50 years ago, I mean, you know that James Brown would be a billionaire. You don't have to ask the question, right? So the point is that our opportunity is global, but you must dominate locally first, right? And what I mean by dominating locally is that when we measure the data, and I was mentioning earlier about some of the numbers of global platforms, I couldn't tell you what was happening on domestic platforms. So for me, that's a big gap. And that's where NCAC is working with the private sector on Discover Niger, which is about a discovery platform to enable Nigerian creators, right? Because what we look at is 99% of Nigerian creators have never been inside a studio. They're just on their phone, somewhere, doing whatever they're doing. But if we have a national HUDE network of locations, which are production spaces that they can come into, use these spaces, and actually get accelerated and promoted, because it's all well and good. Let me tell you something, there are 90 million songs on Spotify. So releasing a song doesn't mean anything if you don't have money to promote it, right? YouTube, you can never even count the amount of content on YouTube. The Nigerian content last year, 20 billion views just on YouTube.
Ajere is an industry on its own. It's a place where youths in numbers are making money. Some are just to carry alone. Some are to supply water, and they are going on something. So we now look at it that if local governments in Nigeria, states, can replicate this in all of our local governments to produce this Ajere, because Ajere is everywhere now, unless you want to deceive ourselves. But people are craving for it, they are looking for it. So when we talk of creativity, it involves a lot of things. I'm happy that DG and his team, they are taking up this now.
So I just wanted to say that we have everything in this country to make this sector work and to make its contribution to GDP more than 90%. You have everything. So I just want to remind you that all these gaps and shortcomings and all these things that are maybe lacking, can be addressed right here. I have a few comments to say. I think the ministry is well placed to be able to drive that at government level, having reformed itself to include the creative sector also blending with tourism to make sure that the consolidation is brilliant. And now to deliver programs will be much easier with that. We have fragmented sectoral components in many governments, including our government, where arts is sitting somewhere, culture is another ministry, tourism is another ministry. As a former minister of tourism, I used to struggle with that, and I used to say, Mr. President, give me culture, give me with arts, because I need to trade tourism using them. So I think in terms of just strengthening what we are doing, institutional capacitation, institutional reforms, where we can have a well-consolidated and inclusive institutional framework that brings everybody on board will help. So that what I observe here is fragmented activities, fragmented programs. There's going to be a weaving expo, tomorrow is a cook expo or food expo, and then there's music and everything. How can you consolidate that? Now, in terms of funding and access to resources and capacities, I think we must be able to package the creative sector so that it can be infused and find a place in all these other events and other sectors. Where do we find them? If there's Afrexim Bank, AFCFTA, African Union, hosting related activities, we need to be able to say this sector can come in here and these are the projected financial benefits that they can have. Let me give you an example based on what we do in Botswana. When we have a big event like this, we always create a marketplace for artists to come and sell their souvenirs, come and sell their arts and crafts, come and dance, and they get money. So they had a target. In this particular event that is running for the whole week, I made this amount of profits. So if you don't find place for them in whatever is going on, then you are neglecting them in your way, I must say. So every time I come to a place I want to buy something, like right now, I feel like buying. I bought this at the craft village sometimes. Why are they right now? So we need to intentionally create spaces for them to be able to trade continuously. So lastly, I think in terms of legal instruments, I want to also maybe just summarize to say, while we are doing so well locally, can we also connect with other countries? I want my people to come here and share knowledge, share things that others are achieving. We have the intellectual property policy of 2022. That seems to be working very well because musicians are already aiming from that. Tens of thousands of hundreds of US dollars and so forth. So I think that if we connect, we can be able to see ourselves and then we can also appreciate ourselves that we are doing very well. So thank you very much and I look forward to more.
Please, we have talents, creativity, nature endows everything with one, with a weapon to survival. And your ability to use it well will still build the task of survival. Any nation's ability to harness properly those talents under the endowments will also still build the survival will build the task. So I'm saying to these people gathered here, always remember those who let the stories, make the stories heard, seen. They are the media and cultural people. They are the workers in the broadcast media. Thank you.
As discussions ended, connections were built. The kind that fuel partnerships long after the lights fade. The next day, INAC turned into a festival of flavor. At the food court, cultures came alive through taste, a showcase of local cuisine, talent, and hospitality. From chicken lollipops to guate, from rizga to ofada rice, each booth told its story.
This is our chicken lollipop. Is Indian Chinese mixed spices fusion. Now these two food integrate Nigeria also with us because every Nigerians come to our restaurant. They ask of samosa and lollipop, biryani, curry, kebabs, tandooris, and all the food cooked by our national chefs.
It used to be AFAC when it started for African countries, but we now felt we have to step up the level, which is INAC. That's why you see it's actually for the international world, so that they can come in, bring in their own. We have exchange, cultural diplomacy.
And as the DG moved from one stall to another, it was clear this was not just an exhibition, it was a celebration of unity through food. Each night at INAC 2025 ended in rhythm, a variety of performances, theatre, and dance. The final day was no different, closing with a special play produced by DG Obi Asika himself, a testament to leadership through creativity.
And I'm a traveler. I've traveled around the world, around the country. And whenever I travel, I come bearing gifts. Yes, I have lovely gifts for My people love beautiful gifts. If you're one of those that love beautiful gifts, we have massive pavilions just behind you. Where lovely artifacts are sold. Hand-woven, beautifully crafted things are sold. So if you want things to buy for your people, head over there. Mama Sikira, are you there? Those things, you have them in your shop. Please, after now, go behind. Buy enough so that you can share for your people.
For the participants, INAC 2025 wasn't just an exhibition. It was a journey through what Nigeria can be when its people create together.
Of course, you had states coming in from different parts of the country, to come and display creativity at its best. And then you have people coming to relate with one another, exchange ideas, how to have better finished things so that we can have good standard of, products and how we can import and export our arts and crafts to the world.
Especially for those of you who play in the arts and crafts space, fashion, accessories, products, and the rest of it. We are launching a platform called AfriCart, which will come live in 2026. It should have come this year, but it's a resource issue, but it's coming. And on that platform, everybody who is in this arts village will be on that platform. So we'll start with about 150 vendors. Then we're going to go to HUDE and bring everybody who's on that online as well. And we're going to go to all the airports, bring them online as well. Because what we want to do is give everybody the opportunity to sell their products to the whole world, not just Nigeria. There'll be some training as well for the vendors so that they can understand and use. Obviously, for the state governments who have massive assets in this area, we'll be working with all of them to help them bring their vendors on board as well. Because what we hope to create is the largest African arts and crafts market. Online, so you can have it in your pocket, and anything you want to buy from any of this stuff, anywhere in the world you happen to be, you can pick it up. That's very, very important to me because I know
There's huge interest in African arts and crafts. There's massive interest in Nigerian culture. And we have to make it as available as possible to everybody, everywhere, all the time, which ties into the Nigeria Everywhere brand, which is something that you will be hearing a lot more of in the coming weeks and months. So the last thing I want to say, apart from thanking everybody, is to say in about 6 weeks' time, we'll be in Enugu for NAFest. So for those of you who are coming there, we look forward to seeing you there. It promises to be massive. INAC next year, we hope to have our venue ready. If our venue is ready on the other side, then INAC will be very different from how it has been, because we will not be hiring tents and canopies. We'll be inside a permanent venue, because this space has to be better utilized. The idea actually was to have this amphitheater is now known as Center Stage, and we wanted to have this place live as much as possible. I'm not talking about seasonal events, or I'm talking about every single week of the year, because there's more than enough content, there's more than enough artists, there's more than enough promoters in Abuja to make this place happen almost every single weekend. But we do need to do a few things, like sort out the stage, a roofing plan, light, sounds, and equipment. And once that happens, Center Stage will go live, and that's a big, big part of what we're trying to do with the Arts Village as well. So thank you all for coming, for those that are here.
From conversations to celebrations, from art to economy, this year's INAC has proven that culture is Nigeria's most powerful export. And as the lights dimmed, the echoes of creativity remained. This was more than an expo. It was the story of a nation crafting its future, one idea, one artwork, and one connection at a time.